Now let's get to the main reason why you sign up for this free course, growing your 4C hair. So sometimes, as you can see from this picture, sometimes your hair might be going through shrinkage, right? And sometimes it can be hard to see how long your hair is. So now in this lesson, I'm going to be focusing mainly on this second part, which is length retention, because I've already covered hair growth, I've covered how your hair grows and factors that affect hair growth. So as we can see from the previous lesson, the hair growth, it is largely determined by genetics. It's also influenced by 5 other factors that I mentioned. But the only issue is you actually cannot control most of these factors. So I talked about the weather, I talked about health, I talked about genetics, your age, right? You obviously cannot control your age. But I did recommend a few things you can do though, such as eating healthy and exercising. But for the most part, genetics especially, you cannot control that. So what we're going to be focusing mainly for this course will be length retention, because that's how you can actually grow your hair long. Now, by length retention, I mean mainly breakage control, right? So the reason why for see here, as you can see from my own hair here, is that it's very kinky, it's very coily, and it feels dry very often. And so as a result of that, it'll break very often as well. So even though your hair is growing constantly, right, from the roots, but the ends will break, right? Because our hair, even though it looks tough, it looks hard, but the reality is that it's actually very fragile, and that's why it's almost, for some ladies, it's very difficult to grow their hair long because the hair is, just so fragile, it breaks very easily. And I have the same hair texture as well, right? Very fragile, breaks very easily. You have to be careful with the way you handle it, the product you put in it, and everything, right? So you want to make sure that you control breakage. So in this lesson, I'm going to be talking over 8 main ways that you can increase length retention so that you can grow your 4C hair. So the first thing you want to do will be to keep your natural hair moisturized, right? Because like I said earlier, right, our hair feels very dry very often. So I have created this 7 days moisture retention regimen. It is completely free of charge. If you sign up for this challenge or for this course, you should have received this regimen completely free of charge, or you can also grab it from my blog, coilsandglory.com. All right, so it's crucial that you keep your hair moisturized at all times so that your hair doesn't feel too dry too often to the point that it'll break off, right? So when it's soft, that means it's going to be flexible and it's less susceptible to breakage, right? And if your hair isn't breaking as often, what's going to happen? Your hair can actually grow long, right? You can retain more length. You can retain more length, right? So the next thing you want to do to increase length retention will be to do frequent protein treatment. So I love to use the AFOG two-step protein treatment, and this treatment is recommended, that you do it every 6 weeks. And what I usually notice after doing this treatment, it's quite weird, is that my hair, for some reason, will start absorbing moisture much longer, right? As absorbing moisture much longer. And I do have another course which I will be talking about towards the end of this program, moisture retention blueprint, where I talked about how dry hair occurs, right? What happens to the hair and why your hair feels dry very often. And I go into the science of that. So this protein treatment, it'll repair your hair, make it stronger, and that way it can't break up as much, right? You can reduce breakage by doing regular protein treatment. So I do have a blog post on the blog. You can just type in protein deep conditioners and it'll bring up this blog post. I recommend the top 5 protein treatments that I recommend for us here. All right, the next thing you want to do will be to protect your hair with protective styles. Now, there are so many different descriptions to protective styling because I mentioned earlier that, when my hair was relaxed and I would always protective style it, always put it in some sort of a protective style, my hair just never grew, right? So just to keep in mind that You don't always have to use extensions. You don't always have to braid your hair for 10 weeks at a time, 3 months at a time, just to grow your hair. You can just do low manipulation hairstyles such as twists, buns, flat twists, very easy hairstyles that will protect your hair from the damages in the environment, and it'll also help you to retain moisture longer, because when your hair, when it's in twist, right, it'll hold on to moisture longer than when your hair looks something like this, right, when it's loose, right, because then moisture can evaporate much faster, and also you can have a lot of tangles and knots, right, because your hair, it's left loose. But once in a while, it's okay to wear twist styles and whatnot, right? But to increase length retention, you want to make sure that your hair is in some sort of a protective hairstyle.